welcome back to the Deep Dive. If you are a regular listener, you know we usually take a topic, history, tech, psychology, and we peel back the layers until we find the nuance underneath.
We try to find the connections.
Exactly. But today we aren't just peeling layers. We're essentially taking the chassis off the universe and looking at the wiring.
That's a very good way to put it.
We are rewiring the motherboard of how we understand history and even scripture itself.
That is a very, very apt metaphor for this specific stack of research we're looking at. It really is about looking at the schematics rather than just the stories.
So we're diving into a massive body of research by Dr. Khaled Waleed. The work is titled The Energetic Geometry of Baka and the Divine Servant. And I want to set the stage here immediately because this isn't your standard history lesson.
Not at all.
Usually when we talk about prophets, holy cities, or scripture, we're thinking in terms of, geography and chronology.
Right. X happened at Y location in the year Z.
It's very linear. It's very physical. It's something you can plot on a map. Right. The standard who, where, and when. It's basically map reading.
Exactly. But Dr. Waleed is asking how. And not how as in, how did they travel on camels, but how does the physics work? He's suggesting that the stories we know, Adam, Moses, the holy cities, all the conflicts, aren't just historical events. Mm-hmm. They're descriptions of energetic circuitry.
It is a total paradigm shift. I mean, he's moving us from a historical map to an engineering diagram.
Right.
The central premise here, and it's a big one, is that the scriptural narrative is actually a technical manual. It's describing the flow of energy between a source, a generator, and a receiver.
Okay, so it's less about good versus evil in a moral sense.
Exactly. The core questions aren't about morality in the way we usually think of it, like good versus bad behavior. The questions are, what are you connected to? What orbit are you stuck in? And is your voltage compatible with the grid you're plugging into?
And that leads us to the big, and I have to say, very controversial hook of this research. We're going to be talking about a tale of two mothers.
We are going to look at a linguistic and spiritual remapping of the world that, well, it separates the true mother, identified here as Baka, from the imposter mother, which he identifies as Maka, and links to the ruins of Petra.
It is a binary system. It's very clear in his work. We are looking at a center of light and a center of darkness. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Waleed is extremely specific in his classification. He links the center of light, so Baka, Medina, Jerusalem, to the station of the prophet Idris and the spiritually elevated human.
The ideal human, basically.
The ideal.
Yeah.
Conversely, he links the center of darkness, this Petra-Maka axis, to the domain of Iblis, the star Sirius, and the concept of Gog and Magog.
Okay, I have to admit, when I first read Gog Magog in the notes, I checked out for a second.
I think most people do.
It usually signals that we're entering, tinfoil hat territory or some kind of apocalyptic movie script.
Yeah.
But Dr. Waleed defines these terms in a way that is strangely grounded.
Yes.
He treats them as technical classifications of human frequency, not giant monsters.
And that is the mission of this deep dive today. We need to strip away the mythological baggage we've all accumulated over centuries and actually look at the linguistic roots. We need to try and understand the physics of these spiritual claims. Because if Dr. Waleed is right, we are all, right now, functioning as components in a massive global circuit board.
So let's grab our multimeters and start testing the connections. The foundational concept in this entire research, the atom of this whole theory, is a single Arabic word.
Ghulam. Ghulam, yes. In modern standard Arabic, if you walk into a coffee shop in Cairo and use this word, people will understand you to mean a boy, a young lad, or a servant.
Okay, pretty straightforward.
It implies youth and a bit of subordination. It's a very common, very innocuous word.
But we aren't using the coffee shop definition today, are we?
Not at all. We are doing what Dr. Waleed calls linguistic energy decoding. And this is where things get really interesting.
All right, let's decode it.
Correct. To understand the energy, you have to break the word into its atomic roots. Ghulam is a compound word. It is built from ghul and Let's start with
It is the easier one. It means mother. But in this context, it also implies source, right? Like the motherboard on a computer or the matrix.
Precisely. Is the origin point, the generator, the nucleus around which things revolve. It is the provider of sustenance and, crucially, structure.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now look at the first part, ghul.
Ghull.
In Arabic, ghul refers to a shackle, a bond, a chain that creates a restriction.
Okay, so if I put those together, shackle to mother, That sounds incredibly negative to a modern ear.
It does.
It sounds like a prisoner. It sounds like you have no freedom, no agency.
And this is exactly where we have to leave our modern liberal sensibilities at the door for a moment and think like electrical engineers.
Okay.
In a circuit, a wire must be shackled to the power source. If an electron is not bound to the nucleus of an atom, what happens?
It flies off, it becomes a free radical, it results in chaos or just dissipation. Nothing happens.
Exactly. In physics, a bond isn't a punishment, it's a functional requirement. It provides orbit and direction and purpose. So when the text refers to a Ghulam, Dr. Waleed argues it isn't just describing a biological age.
It's not just a boy.
It is describing an energetic state. A Ghulam is an entity that is securely shackled or bonded to its source.
So dependency is the feature, not the bug.
Dependency is the function. The research posits that the entire universe operates on this mother-Ghulam dynamic. You have the generator, which is the mother or the source, and you have the motor, which is the Ghulam or the servant.
And the motor serves the generator.
It serves the generator by conducting its energy. If the motor disconnects, it stops being a motor and, well, it becomes a lump of metal. It's useless.
This recontextualizes so many figures in the texts. The notes you sent over mention Joseph, Ishmael, and Yahya John the Baptist as being archetypal gilman.
Yes. And we should ask why. Why represent them as boys or servants? Because they were perfectly conductive. They had zero resistance in the wire connecting them to the source.
So they were perfect conduits.
Perfect conduits. Take the story of Ishmael. He's left in the desert with his mother, ostensibly abandoned. But in this energetic geometry, he is placed at a specific node, the Baka coordinate, and he remains perfectly shackled to the divine methodology, to the true mother.
He doesn't question it. He doesn't run away.
He doesn't sever the connection. And because of that bond, the energy flows, the water of Zamzam springs up, and life is sustained.
So his shackle to the location and to the command was what generated the miracle. It wasn't just about patience. It was about maintaining the circuit connection.
Precisely. If he had walked away, if he had unshackled himself from the command, the circuit breaks and no water flows. The entire potential of that node is lost.
The research also brings up Adam and Jesus in this context, specifically regarding their creation. This part really stretched my brain.
It is fascinating, isn't it? The text describes Jesus as a Ghulam sent to Mary. Dr. Waleed points out that Adam and Jesus share a very unique property. They are created by the Word directly.
They weren't born in the usual biological way.
Exactly. They are nodes inserted into the system from the outside.
Like plugging a fresh USB drive into a corrupted computer.
That is a remarkably accurate analogy. Jesus wasn't just a baby. He was a high-capacity, energetic component, a Ghulam, inserted into the mother, in this case Mary, and by extension the lineage of the House of Imran, to restore the flow of the circuit.
Okay, so the circuit of that lineage had become corrupted.
It had become corrupted, yes. He was shackled to the truth in a way that the surrounding society had lost. He was a ground wire in a system that was constantly short-circuiting.
Okay, so in a perfect world, we are all Gilman, shackled to the true source, the creator, and everything works, the lights stay on.
That is the ideal state.
But we don't live in a perfect world. And this brings us to a story that has bothered me, and I think most people, for a very, very long time. The story of Moses and Al-Qadir.
The good servant. And it's important to note, in this research, Dr. Waleed specifically identifies the good servant as the prophet Idris.
Right, so Moses acts as the student. He's following this mysterious figure, Al-Qadir, or Idris. They get on a boat, he scuttles it, they see a wall, he fixes it. But in the middle of all this, they encounter a young boy, a Ghulam.
Ghulam.
And Al-Qadir kills him.
Yeah.
Just terminates him. And Moses is, rightly, horrified. He says, "You've killed an innocent soul."
It is one of the most difficult passages to reconcile ethically in all of religious literature. I think everyone struggles with it.
The standard explanation I've always heard is something like, well, God knew the boy would grow up to be bad, so it was a mercy killing, which frankly always felt a bit convenient.
There's a bit of a cop-out.
It raises huge questions about free will and punishing someone for a crime they haven't committed yet. But Dr. Waleed looks at this like a technician fixing a fuse box.
He does. He argues that Al-Qadir wasn't looking at a potential future timeline. He was looking at the boy's current wiring. He was doing a diagnostic.
A diagnostic on his soul.
On his energetic signature, the text says the boy's parents were believers, meaning they were plugged into the true mother, the divine source. They're running clean energy.
Okay.
But the boy, he was a Ghulam. Yes, he was functioning, but he was shackled to the wrong mother.
He was a Ghulam of the dark center.
Exactly. Dr. Waleed calls it the Iblis system. The boy was acting as a conductor for a chaotic, satanic voltage. He was fully, completely wired into the opposition.
So you have two parents running on, say, AC power, and their child is hardwired to DC power, and they're all trying to exist on the same circuit board.
And what happens in that scenario, in any electrical system?
Resistance, heat, fire, a total meltdown.
Overload. The verse says, "We feared he would overburden them with transgression." The word used implies a crushing weight or an overlay. Dr. Waleed interprets this as an energetic overload.
So it's not that he would just be a naughty kid.
No. The boy was a viral node. If he stayed in the system, his connection to the dark mother would have fried the parents' connection to the light mother. He would have corrupted their entire spiritual circuit.
So the killing.
It was a cut. It was cutting a wire that was about to cause a system-wide failure. It wasn't about punishment for a crime the boy hadn't committed yet. It was about severing a connection to the Iblis network to save the local grid, which was the parents.
It was a technical necessity.
Devoid of emotional malice. It was system maintenance.
That is cold, but efficient. It turns the story from a moral conundrum into a technical schematic. It suggests that energetic integrity matters more than biological life in this particular framework.
And it introduces the terrifying implication for us, for everyone listening.
Which is?
We are relays. We are not just biological entities. We are repeating a signal. We are either boosting the divine signal or we are boosting the interference. There is no neutral setting. You are shackled to something. You are always orbiting a mother. The question is, which one?
This idea of the network brings us to the geography. If we are the devices, where are the servers? Where are the mothers that we are orbiting? This is where the research gets very geopolitical and very controversial. The tale of two mothers.
This is the absolute core of the energetic geometry. Dr. Waleed identifies two physical axes on Earth that function as these spiritual poles. And he is very clear that these are not just metaphors. They are grounded physical locations.
Okay, let's start with the villain of the piece then. Axis A, the dark center.
The research identifies this axis with the term al-Qur'an. Now hold on, because if you know Islamic history, you know al-Qur'an is traditionally a title of honor for Mecca.
Right, it's always translated as Mother of Cities.
The Mother of Cities, a place of great importance.
But Dr. Waleed just flips the table on that translation.
He flips the whole table. He looks at the root Qur. It can mean villages, yes, but it comes from a root that implies gathering or collecting in a way that can also mean perishing or cutting off.
So not a nurturing gathering.
More like a black hole gathering matter to destroy it. He translates al-Qura as the mother of perishing cities or the mother of destroyed villages.
That is a massive inversion, a complete 180. And he links this geographically to Makkah, but specifically, or at least the archetype of it, to Petra. Why Petra?
This is interesting. There is a significant body of historical revisionist theory, which Dr. Waleed seems to be drawing from or aligning with, that suggests the historical stage for many of these scriptural corruptions was actually Petra in Jordan.
Before being relocated, sort of covered up by later dynasties.
Exactly. He calls the Petra-Makkah axis the imposter mother.
The falsified center.
Correct. And he argues that this location represents a closed circuit designed by Iblis. It mimics the holy site, it has the rituals, it has the buildings. But the energy source is inverted.
Inverted how?
The energy source here isn't the creator directly. It's mediated through the star, Sirius Ashira in Arabic.
Sirius, the dog star. That star shows up in so many ancient mythologies. The Egyptians, the Greeks. Why is it popping up here?
The Quran specifically mentions God as the Lord of Sirius in a way that, you could argue, demotes the star. It's like saying, don't worship that, I'm in charge of it. Dr. Waleed argues this is because Sirius was the frequency Iblis used to hijack human worship.
So it's the false light.
It's the false light. It looks bright, but it's cold. It doesn't provide true spiritual sustenance.
Okay, so we have the dark center, Petra-Makkah, powered by Sirius Iblis, who lives there, who are the gilman of this dark mother.
The research uses the term Bani Israel, but, and I cannot stress this enough, we have to decouple this from the modern political or ethnic definition of Jewish people. That's not what he's talking about.
Right. This is a technical spiritual category, not an ethnicity.
Precisely. He is using Bani Israel as a technical spiritual classification.
So how does he define it?
He translates Israel not as the common wrestles with God, but through roots implying capturing or traveling by night in a way that suggests detachment or stealth. He calls them the detached ones.
Detached from what?
Detached from the true source. These are the humans who have detached their bond from the true mother and are now orbiting the imposter. They've switched their allegiance.
And he explicitly links this group to Gog and Magog.
Yes, this is a crucial point. He posits that Gog and Magog aren't monsters behind a literal iron wall somewhere in the Caucasus. They are the al-insan al-mutadani, which translates to the low-frequency human.
So a debased form of humanity.
The spiritually debased form. They're the Gilman of the dark center. Their function in the Iblis system is to spread corruption, to consume resources without gratitude, and to enforce the orbit of the imposter mother on everyone else.
They are the agents of this system.
They are the spiritual proletariat of the Iblis system.
That is a heavy, heavy label. It paints a picture of a humanity that has been, well, spiritually degraded. So if that's the dark axis, where's the light? Where's axis B? Axis B is Baka.
Baka with a B, not Baka with an M. Yes. A crucial distinction. The Quran mentions Baka as the first house established for mankind. Standard interpretation for centuries has said Baka is just an ancient name for Mecca.
And Dr. Waleed says?
He says absolutely not.
They're opposing poles to him.
Completely opposite. He identifies Baka energetically with the sanctuary in Jerusalem, Beit al-Maqdis, and the sanctuary of Medina, which was known as Yathrib. He sees these three locations as nodes on the true energetic grid.
This is the station of Idris.
Yes. Idris shows up again. He represents the elevated knowledge, the writing of the universe, the schematic, and the power source of Baka is the body, the originator of heavens and earth.
So it's a direct line, no intermediaries.
The direct light of the creator with no interference from Sirius or any other celestial body. It's a clean connection.
And the inhabitants. Who are the Gilman of the true mother?
Bani Adam, and again, this isn't just all humans generically. He defines Bani Adam as the honored ones.
The upgraded human.
The spiritually upgraded human. Al-Bashar al-Mutaraki, the elevated human. The Caliph on earth, the intended model.
So the battle map is set. On one side, you have the detached ones, this Gog Magog Bani Israel archetype, and they're orbiting the imposter mother at Petramaka, powered by Sirius.
Right.
And on the other side, you have the honored ones, the Bani Adam, orbiting the true mother at Baka Jerusalem Medina, powered by the direct light of the originator.
And the conflict isn't just about land or borders or politics. It is a frequency war. The Dark Center wants to close the village, to create a closed loop of energy that ultimately feeds Iblis and his system.
A parasitic system.
Entirely. The Light Center, on the other hand, wants to be an open city that flows energy from the creator to all of humanity, a source of blessing.
This perspective makes the story of Zechariah, which is usually just a nice, simple story about an old man wanting a son, feel like a tactical briefing in a war room.
It completely changes the stakes. Read the prayer of Zechariah again with this framework in mind. He's the guardian of the Holy House, the Light Center. He's standing in the sanctuary in Jerusalem.
He's the operator at the main broadcast tower.
Exactly. And he says in his prayer, I fear the Mawali.
Mawali, usually translated as kinsmen, cousins, heirs.
Right. But think about it. Why would you fear your cousins inheriting the priesthood? Usually you'd want the family business to continue. Unless
they represent a corruption.
Unless they've been compromised. Dr. Waleed links Mawali here to the agents of the Dark Center. They are the sprouts of the Bani Israel Gog Magog frequency.
So Zechariah sees them encroaching. He realizes that if he dies, the imposter mother is going to install her agents in the true mother's house.
It's a hostile takeover, a spiritual hostile takeover.
Right.
They want to hijack the broadcast tower. They want to retune the frequency of the Holy House from the creator's frequency to the frequency of the imposter.
They want to change the signal.
Exactly. So Zechariah isn't asking for a baby to bounce on his knee. He is asking for a Ghulam, a specific, high-powered, energetic component. He needs a pure servant.
The wording is key.
He says, give me a successor from your presence. He is asking for a direct download from the originator, bypassing the corrupted genetic and spiritual pool of the Mawali.
He needs a shield. Dr. Waleed discusses this concept of the Nasya, the forelock.
Yes, this is fascinating. In the Quran, the forelock is mentioned as the control center of the human, what we would probably call the frontal lobe, the center of will and decision.
The command center.
The command center. He argues the Holy House also has a forelock, a control center of knowledge and direction. Zechariah needed Yahya, John, to protect the knowledge forelock of Baka from being overridden by the frequency coming from Petra.
So Yahya was a firewall.
A firewall with a specific encryption key that the Mawali couldn't crack. He was described as chaste and honorable, energetically pure and uncorrupted. He was the system update that would block the virus.
This idea of native versus invader brings us to another term that I think is widely misunderstood, the Ummiyyin.
This is one of the most critical corrections in the entire body of research. If you ask a standard scholar, Ummiyyin means the illiterates, the people who can't read or write.
And it's often used to describe the Prophet Muhammad to emphasize the miracle of the Quran. He couldn't read, so how could he write this beautiful book?
That's the standard narrative, but Dr. Waleed disagrees.
Vehemently, from the look of these notes.
Vehemently. He goes back to the root, mother. Ummiyin doesn't mean illiterate, it means the natives of the mother.
Natives of Bakka, the original people.
Yes. Think of it this way. You have a group of people who have the distorted, corrupted scriptures of the Mawali, the detached ones. They have books, but the data in those books is corrupted.
They have a virus-infected hard drive.
A perfect analogy. Then you have the Ummiyyin. They don't have the corrupted books. They are relying on the instinct of the mother. They are plugged directly into the source. They are running on the original clean operating system.
So it's not that they can't read. It's that they don't need the corrupted manual because they wrote the code. Or rather, they are hardwired into the mainframe.
Exactly. They are the Bani Adam who stayed connected to the center of the Earth's spiritual grid. They rejected the software updates from the imposter mother and stuck to the factory settings of the divine.
This really paints the Mawali, or the people of the book, in that specific context as the hackers. They are trying to phish the Ummiyin. They're saying, hey, look at our book, look at our scroll, click this link.
And the Ummiyin represent the immunity, the refusal to download the virus. It frames the prophet not as someone lacking education, but as someone possessing the ultimate mother logic, or source logic. His knowledge was unmediated and pure.
I want to pivot now to something that feels very futuristic, almost sci-fi. We've talked about Earth. But Dr. Waleed applies this Mother Ghulam circuitry to the afterlife, to paradise. And honestly, reading this section, I felt like I was reading the specs for a luxury space station or a simulation.
It is a radical departure from the, grapes and rivers imagery we are used to, or rather, it explains the mechanics behind the grapes and rivers.
The Quran mentions both Gilman and Walden, serving the believers in paradise. Again, traditionally, young servants. But Dr. Waleed distinguishes them based on their specific function in the system.
Let's look at the Gilman in paradise first. Remember our definition. Shackled to the mother. In paradise, the believer is a localized center of gravity. The Gilman are described in the text as being for them.
Dedicated to them, like a personal interface.
Yeah.
Or a personal assistant.
Dr. Waleed calls them transmitters. Imagine you are in paradise. You have a desire. You want to experience a specific delight, a taste, a sound, a memory, a feeling. The Gilman are the dedicated fiber optic cables shackled directly to you.
They're my personal server.
They are the interface that fetches the data from the divine source and renders it for your specific consciousness. They translate divine will into personal experience.
So they are the hardware that makes the experience of paradise possible on an individual level.
Yes. Without the Ghulam, you can't access the file. They serve your specific circuit. The text describes them as being like preserved pearls, which he interprets as stored data, perfect and incorruptible, ready to be accessed.
Okay, that's the Gilman. And then you have the Waldan, immortal youths.
Waldan comes from the root Walad, birth, generation, newness. Dr. Waleed calls them new energy. Unlike the Gilman, who are assigned to a specific user, the Waldan seem to be swimming or circulating in the orbit of paradise generally. They serve the system.
They are the infrastructure. They're not my personal fiber optic cable. They're the public Wi-Fi signal.
A perfect analogy. The Waldan ensure the flow of what Dr. Waleed calls psychological drink and spiritual food to the entire Ummah, the gathered community. They are the data packets moving through the network, ensuring that the atmosphere of paradise remains charged with peace and revelation.
It implies that sensation in paradise isn't just passive. It's a technological service being provided. You are constantly receiving a download of bliss, and these entities are the servers and routers managing all that traffic.
It reinforces the idea that connection is the ultimate luxury. And so hell, in this view, would be total disconnection, a severed wire, a 404 error for eternity. Paradise is the superconductor's state zero resistance, infinite flow.
Let's bring this all back down to Earth and history for the final segment, the Great Reset, the Hijra, the Prophet's migration from Mecca to Medina.
This is where the theory ties history and energy together in a really powerful way. We all know the historical story. The prophet was persecuted in Makkah, his followers were harmed, so he fled to Medina for safety.
A political and social move.
Yes, but Dr. Waleed frames this as a fundamental frequency shift.
An energetic necessity.
He argues that the prophet spent the first phase of his mission in the warning zone, Makkah, the seat of the imposter mother. He was trying to break the signal of Iblis Sirius right at its source.
He went into the enemy headquarters.
He did, but the system was too corrupted. It was a perishing city. The detached ones, that Bani Israel archetype, had too tight a grip on the frequency of the city.
So the migration wasn't just running away, it was a recalibration.
It was an energetic reset for all of humanity. The compass needle of mankind was stuck pointing to the dark center, to Sirius and Petra. The Hijra was the physical movement required to snap that needle back to the true north, the true mother, the Baka-Medina axis.
And the Isra. The night journey. Where does that fit in?
Think of the night journey as the wiring diagram being verified by the chief engineer. The prophet travels from the sacred mosque, which this theory links to the Baka energy, to the farthest mosque in Jerusalem.
He's connecting the dots.
He is physically tracing the circuit of the true mother. He is reestablishing the link between the two primary nodes of the light center. He connects the forelock of the Kaaba to the forelock of Jerusalem, unifying the grid.
And notably, he ends up establishing his community not in Jerusalem, not back in Makkah, but in Medina, the city of light.
Precisely. He moves away from the detached ones, the Gog-Magog archetypes in Makkah, and joins the Ummiyyin, the natives of the source, in Medina. He successfully opens the circuit. He establishes the blessed city to act as a counterweight to the perishing city.
It's a really compelling narrative. It essentially says that the entire history of the prophetic mission was about saving humanity from being phished by a false server and logging us all back into the mainframe.
That is the gist of it. It's about restoring the connection to the bodies, the originator, without the interference and static of the imposter.
So we've covered a lot. The Ghulam as a shackled motor, the two mothers, Makkah Petra versus Baka Jerusalem, the technical necessity of the Kidril killing, and the sci-fi interfaces of paradise.
It's a dense framework, but it really simplifies the world into a single binary choice.
And that leads to the so what for the listener. Because most of us aren't, debating the location of Petra or fighting Gog and Magog on a daily basis. But there is a very practical application here regarding parents.
Yes, this is the part that hit me the hardest when I was going through the research. We are all told in Scripture to honor our parents.
Right. And it's usually framed as a moral duty. Be nice to them, they changed your diapers, they raised you.
But in the Ghulam framework, your parents are your immediate mother and source. They are the biological generator you literally popped out of.
Yeah.
You are physically and energetically shackled to their frequency because you are made of their materials.
So if you disrespect them, if you cut them off,
you are hacking your own root directory. If you sever the bond with your immediate source through cruelty, neglect, arrogance, you destabilize your own energetic stability. You cannot be properly connected to the big mother, the divine, if you have severed the wire to the small mother, your parents.
So it's not even about whether they deserve it in a moral sense. It's about you not burning out your own fuse.
Exactly. It's a technical requirement for a healthy spiritual life. Maintain the circuit. Keep the flow clear. Even if the parents are flawed, the connection itself must be honored to keep your own voltage stable. Disconnecting from them is spiritual self-harm.
That is a very powerful takeaway. It removes the emotion and makes it about your own survival. I want to leave the listener with one final, slightly provocative thought to chew on from all this. Go for it.
If Baka is the true mother, the center of authentic energy and connection and truth, and Makkah Petra, in this theory, represents the imposter mother, the center of materialism, distraction, consumption, and the perishing world.
Okay. I see where you're going with this.
Look at the world today. Look at our phones, our social media, our endless consumption, our obsession with the material. Look at how we are detached from nature and from spirit. Are we currently living in the golden age of the imposter mother? Have we all unwittingly become Gilman of the dark center?
And if that's true, how do we perform our own personal hijra? How do we unplug from the serious frequency and find Baka in a world that is saturated with neon lights?
That is the question. Dr. Waleed's research gives us the schematic, but we have to do the wiring ourselves.
Check your connections.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. This one definitely broke my brain, but in the best possible way.
A pleasure as always. It was a fascinating topic.
We'll catch you on the next one. Stay connected.